When you look at the Great Pyramid at Giza, you see an impossibility turned real. 300,000 stones stacked with a precision that has baffled centuries. People imagine gods, aliens, or an army of chained slaves. But the real story, the true miracle, is quieter, more human, and far more interesting. It is a story of rivers and seasons, of clever hands and stubborn communities, of politics and belief braided together. Today, we walk with those people. We lift the veil. Let's begin with the stories that stuck. Since the ancient world, pyramids have been symbols, not simply tombs, but anchors for memory and meaning. For centuries, outsiders filled the empty spaces in their understanding with dramatic explanations. Giants, slave labor, supernatural architects. Those images were convenient. They fit our hunger for spectacle, but they don't fit the evidence. Archaeology, for all its careful, patient labor, speaks a different language. It whispers from workers' graffiti on stones, from bread ovens found near the quarries, from the bones of those who labored and the seals stamped on blocks. Far from slaves shackled with irons, we find houses, bakeries, and inscriptions that read like family names. People who came, worked, and returned home. Understanding the pyramids begins by removing the masked myths, so we can see the people beneath. The first unglamorous truth is this: a pyramid is logistics made visible. Stone doesn't float itself to the plateau. It must be cut, shaped, dragged, shipped, and then precisely set. The best limestone came from quarries like Tura, white, close-grained, and heavy. Workers would cut huge blocks with copper saws and dolerite pounding stones. The cut stone shows marks, rhythmic, regular beats of tool on stone, the cadence of labor. How did they move those blocks? The Nile was the ancient highway. Seasonal inundation, the annual flood, raised the waterline and allowed barges to carry the blocks close to the building site. Archaeologists have found remains of harbors and ramps near the Giza Plateau, an ancient dock system, wooden sledges once lubricated, and traces of rope wear. One remarkable image survives in a New Kingdom tomb painting, a block on a sledge being hauled over wet sand, with a man pouring water ahead of the sled. Modern experiments show that a little water reduces friction dramatically. Engineers today, recreating the scene, demonstrate that with organized teams, a barge, sledges, and well-timed flooding, a surprisingly large stone can be moved by relatively few hands. It's not mystery magic. It's careful observation of nature, using the river, timing labor, and applying human coordination at scale. Now to the question that captures imaginations. How did they lift stones high enough to form the pyramid's smooth faces? The word ramp is an old friend here, but it hides complexity. For a long time, the simplest image was a single giant ramp climbing the face of a rising pyramid. Plausible, but impractical once the structure reached the scale of Khufu. Scholars propose a handful of solutions, and the best truth is probably a mixture. Some ramps were straight and external for the lower courses. Others were zigzagging or wrapped around the side. A compelling theory suggests internal ramps, corridors built inside the mass of the pyramid, where stones were hauled up a spiral passage and then inserted into place. The idea is elegant. It explains the lack of huge exterior ramp remains and fits some structural clues found in small internal anomalies. Other techniques relied on levers and short, repeated lifts. Wooden A-frames and counterweights could raise a block a small height repeatedly until it reached its target. Consider the mathematics. Raise a stone 10 centimeters at a time. Shim it with timber. Repeat. It's slow, methodical, and certain, the kind of construction where patience, not miracles, wins. The evidence, tool marks, remaining ramps, experimental archaeology points to ingenuity. Engineers who mapped angles, managed teams, and used simple machines with profound effect. If you're finding this surprising, please subscribe and hit the like button. We bring the people behind the monuments back to life every week. The stones were raised by hands that loved and argued and ached. Excavations around Giza have uncovered neighborhoods, bakeries still blackened by hearths, simple homes, tools, and skeletons with healed fractures. Osteologists read those bones, signs of heavy but skilled labor, healed injuries, diets richer than one might suppose. The workers were fed, organized into crews, and sometimes honored. Graffiti left by quarry crews names their teams, the Friends of Khufu, Inspector of the Great House. These were not anonymous mobs. They were skilled artisans, stonecutters, boatmen, bakers, and sculptors who carried reputation and lineage into their work. There's a human cost. Some bones show severe wear, osteoarthritis, spinal compression, the physical mark of a lifetime of hefting stone. Yet there are also signs of care, healed wounds, orderly burials, communal graves with offerings. A team that works together builds more than monuments. They build communities. Politically, pyramids served social needs. A pharaoh's grand project mobilized labor in years of low agricultural demand, providing food and wages, redistributing wealth, and binding loyalty. They were statements of power, yes, but also of a system that organized thousands into a shared purpose. What remains is more than stone. It is a question posed across generations. What do we build when we have the power to shape the world? The pyramids endure because they answered that question with organization, ritual, and a vision that outlasted one lifetime. Modern experiments, engineers reenacting ramp theories, students hauling sledges, archaeologists mapping quarries, have demystified a portion of the process. Yet the emotional fact remains. The pyramids are a human achievement of logistics, faith, and craft. They tell us about priorities, about the value placed on memory, the ability to mobilize resources, and the will to make the ephemeral permanent. When you stand at the base of the Great Pyramid, you feel the centuries like a pressure on your skin. But it is not the pressure of supernatural intervention. It is the accumulated pressure of thousands of human acts, day after day, that is more extraordinary. Ordinary people, coordinated, persistent, and purposeful, shaping a work that speaks across 5 millennia. If this unpacking of the pyramids changed how you see them, leave a comment. What surprised you most? Share this with a friend who loves ancient mysteries. And if you want more deep, cinematic history, subscribe and step into the next story with us. Thank you for walking with the builders.